Hello, it's Stranger Games. When it comes to knockoff games, you probably think of those low-quality copycat games. They are created solely to deceive and profit from the original games, and there is no way they can compete with the real one, is there? However, there are a few exceptions where these knockoff games have top-notch quality and are way better than the original in popularity. Take Angry Birds, for example. Many people don't know it actually borrowed its gameplay from another game. Who would have thought? Right? So let's explore some games considered knockoffs but have become more famous and successful than their originals in this video. Now please sit back, grab a snack, and go! First, SimCity imitates Utopia. Throughout history, simulation and building games have been the most beloved genres with a large fan base all over the world. If asked where the origin of simulation and building games is, I'm sure the answer is none other than SimCity. In this game, players take on the role of a mayor tasked with building a city. You will provide basic needs such as transportation links, electricity, and service for your residential areas while addressing various issues and managing countless disasters as in real life. In addition to the option of building a new city, the game also features scenario modes, assigning players to oversee a pre-built city and tackle specific problems. Most often, the goal is to restore the city after a disaster. The game was released to the public in 1989, when racing and fighting games were still the hot trend, so SimCity was hailed as a pioneer of a brand new genre. Its design revolved around building something rather than the usual destruction or combat. However, you may not know that in reality, SimCity borrowed its gameplay formula from others. The first simulation game was developed in 1986 called Utopia. It was released for the Intel Revision system, focusing on developing your island into a prosperous society by building structures, managing resources, and maintaining resident satisfaction. With its unique and groundbreaking gameplay, Utopia was highly regarded for its complexity and detail, especially when compared to other products on the market at the same time. You might wonder why Utopia is hardly remembered as the first simulation game, while SimCity, its successor, seems to steal the spotlight. Well, it's all about their design gameplay. Utopia was a two-player game where you battled it out to see who could manage their island better by building structures and managing society to earn more points. You didn't get to build your dream city and watch it grow like in SimCity. That's why SimCity took the crown. It's more about creating and nurturing a city over time, which makes it super popular in classrooms for teaching resource management and urban planning. That's why, even though Utopia was the OG, the first simulation game, it faded away, while the title of Noble Pioneer now belongs to SimCity. 2. Candy Crush Saga imitates Bejeweled. When discussing casual games for mothers, Candy Crush Saga certainly ranks at the top. Launched by King Mobile on Facebook in April 2012, it quickly made its way to iOS, Android, and Windows, generating enormous revenue for its creators. The gameplay is super simple yet addictive. You need to match 3 candies of the same color to clear them and meet specific objectives while working with a limited number of moves. If you can match 4 or more candies, you will get a special one to help you pass through levels easily. With many different levels and a mix of mission types, Candy Crush Saga keeps everything fresh and exciting, making it the perfect way to take a break after a long day of intense study or working hard. At this point, this game shares a gameplay style similar to the legendary Bejeweled, which took the gaming world by storm in the 2000s, right? Looking back a decade, the king of casual games, PopCap, shook up the market with its products. In Bejeweled, players arrange gems so that at least 3 of the same shape, size, or color line up in a row. It can be said that Bejeweled was the pioneer of Match 3 games, and it paved the way for all these casual games we see today, especially on mobile platforms, which are often made for quick play sessions without investing heavily in-game content and packed with ads to keep the profits rolling in. So, Match 3 games have often been criticized as clones of Bejeweled and fading into obscurity after a short time in the spotlight. However, Candy Crush Saga is different. This game captures hearts immediately upon its release. Candy Crush Saga is so popular that for every 23 Facebook users, 1 is just there for this game. This surge in popularity has pushed the original, Bejeweled, to take a backseat. What sets Candy Crush Saga apart and grants it the confidence to stand alongside the legendary PopCap Classic, even generating enough reputation to hold a billion-dollar esports tournament? Part of the answer lies in the theme of the two games. The developers of Candy Crush Saga intentionally used images of candy, as previous gambling games often featured fruit and food icons to call up the happiness and joy associated with eating. It is clear that compared to emotionless stones and gems of bejeweled food items, like candy and fruit make the game more fun and relaxing. However, the gameplay is an important thing that sets Candy Crush apart and makes it more engaging than that of its predecessor, even though they are both match-3 games. The developers, King Mobile, keep things fresh and exciting by adding innovative challenges requiring strategy, luck, and some brain power. But Bejeweled mainly had you racing against the clock, which caused players to become bored and want to exit the game. The passion, creativity, and dedication of the Candy Crush Saga developers have allowed this game to rightfully claim the throne held by the legendary Bejeweled, which once dominated the gaming scene. Third, Farmville imitates Farmtown. Looking back at 2009, it's wild to think about how Farmville suddenly burst onto the scene and took the world by storm. At this time, everyone became a farmer, spending their free time planting crops, raising adorable livestock, harvesting or visiting friends without stepping outside. It was like a dream. Farmville allows users to enjoy many aspects of farming without going outside and toil in the fields, cutting grass, and doing all sorts of hard work, yet still becoming a real farmer. All you needed was a lot of free time, then log into your Facebook account and click to carry out all the tasks a farmer does without requiring any exceptional skills or high-level strategic thinking. With its vibrant graphics, catchy sounds, and simple yet highly addictive gameplay, this brainchild of Zynga dominated the entire gaming market on Facebook with 83.76 million monthly users, capturing about a third of the Facebook user base back then. But what's often overlooked is that Slashkey launched a game called Farmtown before Farmville, which also revolved around rural life, featuring various country tasks and allowing players to visit friends. With a similar vibe and charming visuals, one could argue that these two farming games are nearly identical. If someone were to claim that Farmville is a sequel to Farmtown, some might even believe it. Ironically, Slashkey's product had a mere 13 million monthly users. It shows that sometimes the knockoff can overshadow the original, and Farmville's massive success proved that. So, why did Farmtown end up lagging despite having a similar quality to Farmville? Well, it could be due to the factors that gave Farmville the upper hand, stemming from the correct business strategy of the game development team. At that time, Facebook was the most widely used service globally, and Zynga cleverly capitalized on that massive audience to push Farmville into the spotlight. In Farmville, players can exchange resources with each other to grow wealthier, or even invite their friends, parents, and random strangers from around the world to join in and help them earn more sweet rewards. Plus, Farmville had this clever mechanic where if you didn't harvest your crops in time, they'd die. And after all, nobody likes losing out on virtual goodies. This aspect kept gamers from neglecting their farms for too long and constantly checking in, which kept the player count high. The sharing groups related to Farmville were also very active. On top of that, the buzz around Farmville on social media was off the charts, further boosting its popularity compared to other farming games. Even though Farmville had countless similarities to Farmtown, the perfect timing, advantageous conditions, and correct strategies made it the reigning champ of farming games for quite a long time. It made people almost forget that it was merely a copycat game. Over time, no one bothered to remember the game it imitated anymore. 4. Angry Birds imitates Crush the Castle. Besides Farmville, at the end of 2009, something new and addictive came along. Angry Birds, developed by Rovio Mobile out of Finland. This game took social media by storm with its quirky but funny theme of birds battling it against those pesky green pigs trying to snatch their eggs. The gameplay is super simple, but pretty challenging. You use a slingshot to launch different birds at the pigs, hiding behind all sorts of wooden and stone structures. adventures. Each level features a specific set of birds, and you have to knock out all the pigs without running out of birds. The more destruction you cause. Points count for destroying the enemies, breaking structures, and the number of birds remaining. The more points you have, the more stars you earn. With simple yet challenging gameplay, it didn't take long for Angry Birds to become a massive hit, quickly climbing to the top of app stores. You know, it was the best-selling paid app in the UK in February 2010, and hit the top in the US shortly after. Given this success, who would have thought that this mobile game, deemed the most popular all time, would be a blatant imitation? Not long before Angry Birds took off, Armor Games released a game called Crush the Castle, where players use rocks to demolish castles and take out enemies. Each shot required adjustments to the power and angle of the catapult to hit the target accurately. The game featured various types of ammunition, each with its function, providing players with multiple strategies to complete their tasks. It is clear to see that Angry Birds and Crush the Castle share an identical gameplay style. To put it bluntly, Angry Birds stole the core of Crush the Castle as its own. Do you know what makes Angry Birds a globally renowned brand while Crush the Castle is hardly known at all? It all comes down to their graphics. Take Angry Birds, for example. This game has a visually appealing design with cute birds, and combined with a bright, lively background, it easily captures children's attention and earns the affection of adults. It is like a colorful party on your screen. In contrast, looking at Crush the Castle with its lifeless catapult and gloomy scenery, no child would be interested in this game. Plus, the cheerful and distinctive sounds and the continuous updates and improvements of Angry Birds far surpass the dullness and dryness found in Crush the Castle. 5. Goose Duck imitates Among Us. In 2020, when the world was turned upside down by the COVID-19 pandemic, a game called Among Us blew up on social media. Developed by Innersloth and originally released on June 15, 2018, the game drops players into a colorful spaceship where they either work as crew members or play as sneaky imposters. The crew's mission is to complete tasks to repair the ship and return to Earth, while the imposters are out to sabotage their efforts and eliminate them. Each game can be played online or via a local network with 4 to 10 players. In a time when the entire world was under social distancing, this game served as a lifeline. It was the perfect way to connect with friends while keeping a safe distance, and soon people were hooked on this game, leading to a global craze. Riding that wave of success, Gaggle Studio jumped in with Goose Duck, which basically features gameplay and graphics 99% similar to Among Us. Players take on the roles of geese and ducks instead of crew. At first, people were quick to dismiss it as just another knockoff, but once they gave it a shot, many found themselves arguing that Goose Duck might be the new favorite, leaving Among Us in its shadow. To understand why such a strange situation occurs, let's break it down a bit. When you dive into the gameplay of Among Us, it feels like the classic board game, Werewolf. In Among Us, the crew members are hustling to complete tasks around the spaceship as mini-games like maintaining systems, connecting electrical circuits, refueling engines, etc., all while the sneaky imposter is busy sabotaging everything and creeping through vents to discover other imposters and persuade them to eliminate the crew members on the ship. All the crew can do is vote to eliminate the suspected imposter to reduce or increase the danger in the game. Still, they cannot defend themselves or assist in investigations. It's kind of a game of social deduction and trust building, but honestly, it can get pretty stale if you're stuck in that endless loop of finger-pointing and voting each other off without much strategy. Now, on the flip side, Goose Duck has resolved the frustrating shortcomings of Among Us and really shakes things up with a whopping 22 different roles that each brings something unique. For example, the detective can investigate and figure out who the imposter is. The assassin can quietly take out targets if they guess right without acting directly. The dodo has its own quirky goal to get voted out and win. This variety not only adds layers of strategy, but also keeps the game fresh and exciting. With games having a high social aspect and requiring continuous interaction between players, this feature is advanced and essential, providing a wonderful experience for gamers. In summary, the gameplay of Goose Duck might look a lot like Among Us, but it's leveled up in super cool ways and a much more advanced version. Interestingly, Innersloth even borrowed ideas from its copycat later on to spice up Among Us. But by that point, everything was already too late. Goose Duck was already stealing the spotlight. These are some titles of games that mimic the originals. Although they are created by borrowing ideas, they don't just sit back and let the originals take all the glory, they step up and claim their own spotlight. The success of these imitations serves as a lesson for those who rest on their laurels. Just because you were first doesn't mean you are safe. Watch out. If you don't, you will face a humiliating defeat against competitors you view as your knockoffs. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to avoid missing any Stranger Games videos. Goodbye, and see you next time.